Hey, what's going on, people? Today I'm going to make a presentation about education and why so many kids fall through the cracks, and how adults are typically the problem. The teachers, the administrators, the parents, the guardians, the friends around who are adults who should really have seen what was going down, and they were too busy or didn't care. Very briefly about me, so that you can put this in perspective. I have produced celebrities in film and video ventures. I've been a radio and TV executive. I have been a teacher of the year. I've been a vice principal. I have some martial arts trophies for first place, a few second places too. You can't win them all. Um, I have a national athletic award, etc., etc., etc. I've also had some problems and challenges, been attacked, been in dealt with some gangsters, dealt with some geeks, dealt with the whole, well, I shouldn't say the whole, but a large variety of people and scenarios. So I'm going to mix my experience with a bit of what I think are suggestions on how you students can succeed in school even if no one seems to care, or very few people seem to care. And on the flip side, I'm hoping that you adults watching, whether teachers or administrators, parents, guardians, whatever, you learn from this, and hopefully we can all help the children in our lives and communities. Straight off the bat, my parents were separated and divorced many times, so I went to tons of schools back and forth. Their priorities were paying bills and their religion, and I think that they loved their children, but more time could have been spent, honestly, with sitting one-on-one with the children to talk about the problems of life and how is school and going over homework. But of course, no parents are perfect, and a part of what they did right and wrong made me who I am today. So my experience was that primary school was a piece of cake, but junior high and high became increasingly challenging. Challenges of drugs and sex and violence, etc. Many things were going on right in front of the teachers' eyes, and the teachers either didn't know or didn't care. Same thing with you parents and adults. A lot of stuff your kids are going through: suicidal thoughts, depression, drugs, sex, AIDS, all kinds of bull going down, and you don't even know usually. You're too busy on the job, slaving for the job, going to your church or mosque, and your kids are right there caught up in drama. So for me personally, when I migrated from junior high, which was a bit challenging because my parents were breaking up or arguing a lot, and I found myself kind of figuring out some of my own stuff. Junior high was tough. High school was ridiculously tough. Now, bear in mind that even though in most subjects I was a A+ student, in one or two I was a C student, especially math and some of the sciences. I found that they weren't taught properly, but I worked and I became the school athletic team captain, and had a lot of positives going on, etc., etc. But no one sat with me about college, right? I had in the school probably one teacher that really cared about me, Mr. Steinberg. He was a history teacher. The others either didn't care at all, couldn't care less, or they were inundated with classroom settings that they were not possibly trained to handle properly, and so I was invisible. Um, and I went through some things that were really tough in school, and my parents to this day don't know, and the teachers to this day don't know, but many of you students know a lot of the crazy stuff that goes on in our minds and in our experiences. So I even had a gym teacher. Now, I was one of the best athletes that barely knew my name, and he was the gym teacher. And in one instance, I could have had a college scholarship if the person did the paperwork late, right? And this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you talk to the young people in your life, you'll find some stories that may shock you if they open up to you, okay? So here's summarizing it. I find that adults in school settings tend not to care about the children, the students. They care more about what time is lunch, or just getting out some test papers, or how they're going to pay their mortgage, right? Or just managing the insanity of a class when someone should have taught them how. So most of you students are on your own, especially in schools in socio-economically challenged, aka minority communities, which is, they usually go together in our present system. We need to hold teachers accountable. We need to hold administrators and parents accountable. We need to hold the adults accountable, right? We have to. How can we blame the students? And forget the fact that some people say, well, the parents aren't attending the meetings. No, you can still make students succeed. Now, let me show you how I overcame some stuff, right? Overcame the whole challenges that went on. I didn't disclose all of it, but a lot of drama and legal stuff. I went on to be Teacher of the Year. I went on to college. And even in college, I found similar levels of complacency and ignorance among far too many professors, especially if you spoke up about certain social causes and racism, etc. I went on to help run radio station. I went on to be Phi Theta Kappa. Earlier, before college, I had been a national track recipient of an award. I went on to produce celebrities, etc., etc. And the reason I think I was able to do those things was because even though my parents had not spent enough time, in my honest opinion, sitting with me talking about problems and academics, they had already succeeded in their lives, my father and mother, in terms of from a business and intellectual perspective, excluding the religious component. I'm talking about academics and their communication skills. So in my mind, I had a roadmap. However, if I had parents who had not achieved academic greatness, it's possible that I could have gone another route. I could be in jail or a big drug dealer, or I'm serious, I could be could be dead. So it's a very fine line between students that succeed, whether it's in creative arts or some of the more academic disciplines or athletics or just being a good father or mother, etc., or students that end up dead or in jail or dying. It's the adults. Generally, it's the adults. Now, I implore you, it behooves you students to understand that if you can't find an adult that cares much about you, care about yourself. Care about yourself. And you adults, if you think you can throw all the blame on the students, impossible. The adults are the problem. Clearly, teachers' unions, etc., want to do a good job, but in order to do a better job, the best job actually, we have to look through those teachers' contracts and make sure that there are clauses in there protecting student rights. Don't just protect teachers and their time off and their sick pay and what happens if a student hits them with a banana. Put clauses in there that say we teachers are responsible for the education, and if our students fail, we have failed. Don't pass the buck to the parents. That's a separate issue. You can have successful students even if the parents don't participate. It's more challenging, and the student, instead of getting an A, may get a B or B minus or an A minus, but they can achieve. And you parents that are not doing your part, you've got to get busy. And if you don't find a school or a teacher that cares, homeschool or write letters. You have to be the #1 advocate for the children under your care. The #1 advocate. Write letters, picket, go on a hunger strike, do what you have to do. Now, where does a culturally sound education come in? How too many schools only teach education from a European perspective, from an Anglo-American perspective? That is a fatal flaw which turns off many students. You've got to incorporate Native Indian culture, African American culture, Asian American culture, and you've got to show women in a positive light. The society and the school systems are too white male dominated. I'm not talking from as teachers, I'm talking about the thinking behind the textbooks. Too white male dominated. We've got to diversify. And we've got to make sure that even though there's some, okay teachers who are white females, you've got to put some men in the classrooms. You've got to have some men there. You can't just have the man that's the janitor. I mean, big respect to the janitors of the world. What I'm saying is that it gives the wrong impression that some of the more academically stimulating professions are not accessible to men, especially minority black men. We've got to put some brothers in the classrooms. Got to. So I encourage you all, stay strong. Those of you that were thinking of suicide or joining a gang or quitting school, hang in there. You can make it through. I made it through. And I'm not the only one. There are many folks that have made it through like me. But most adults will blame you, the students, for the problems. And you're not the problem. You're a product of an environment. I wish you all the best. I wish you parents and adults the best. We can change the world. I spoke to a school chancellor once, and I was giving him some suggestions, and I was hoping that he and I could sit briefly or talk on the phone, and we never got that opportunity. But if you're in a position, a chancellor, a mayor, a president, a king, whatever, you've got to put the children as the number one priority. The children are the number one priority. The kids, number one. I'm Jay. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this, and best wishes to everybody. Okay? Bye.